Hello everyone! We are the Group 4 and this is our presentation. Objectives. Discuss on how children learn syntax. Explain the syntactic development of children. Explain different theories about learning syntax. Learning outcomes. Analyze the syntax theories about children development. Know the function of syntax. Define syntax and its different theories. What is language? Language is the principal method of human communication consisting of words used in a structured and conventional way and conveyed by speech, writing, and gesture. We use language to connect ourselves with people and also to analyze their different perspectives. Syntax is the arrangement of words and phrases to create well-formed sentences in a language. It is also a part of the grammar in any language. Example: Carmela saw honey versus honey saw Carmela. As you can see, these two sentences have the same words, but then we know that these two sentences have different meanings. Why do we know? We know because the syntax helps us figure out the two different meanings. Children's utterances are much shorter than adults because children tend to omit obligatory words and word endings. For example, Filipino children tend to say, "Ako gutom," while English children tend to say, "I sad." Children love speaking and they become more creative. Brown and Fraser suggested the term telegraphic speech to describe the children's early speech. Let us take a look at this story. True. Nervous. Very dreadfully nervous I had been and am. But why will you say that I am mad? The disease had sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was the sense of a hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and in the earth. I heard many things in hell. How then am I mad? Hearken and observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. After reading it, we follow our go-to close reading questions. What happens? What do you notice? Why is it important? I bet you all noticed the dashes and exclamation points. We can still understand the story, right? That is because of the help of syntax.
How do children learn the syntax of their language? According to Skinner, 1957, one possible answer to our key question is that children learn simply by imitating the speech they hear around them. However, this answer of Skinner, 1957, cannot be the correct one for a very simple reason. If we learn syntax by simply imitating what we hear around us, we would not be able to understand sentences that were completely new and unfamiliar. Yet, we can both generate and understand such sentences. Children learn a syntax of syntactic principles that allows them to generate, not just imitate sentences. For example, one of the principles that we learn in English is nouns. For example, is horse. It combined with determiners a, the, this, that to form noun phrases.
This can be substituted for other noun phrases. The horse is running, the cat is running. For a pronoun, he is running or he is working. These rules for using noun phrases together with all other syntactic rules constitute language's secret skeleton of syntactic principles that govern how words are put together. Last 2006.
Good afternoon everyone. My topic is about nativist theory of syntax acquisition. This concept suggests that acquisition is innately determined, that we are born with a built-in device of some kind that predisposes us to language acquisition. Children are biologically programmed for language acquisition. This was proposed by Noam Chomsky, and he said that every child is born with a biological predisposition to learn language or any language. he came up with the idea of a language organ which is known as the Language Acquisition Device or LAD. Language Acquisition Device or LAD is part of Schumpeter's acquisition hypothesis. The LAD is a system of principles that children are born with that helps them learn language and accounts for the order in which children learn structures and the mistakes they make as they learn. For example, a child may correctly learn the word gave, the past tense of the word give, and later on use the word gift. Eventually, the child will typically go back to using the correct word gave. There are 4 innate linguistic properties of LAD. First is the ability to distinguish speech sounds from other sounds in the environment. Second is the ability to organize linguistic events in various classes which can later be refined. Third, knowledge that only a certain kind of linguistic system is possible and other kinds are not. And lastly, ability to engage in constant evaluation of the developing linguistic system.
There is a basic chicken and egg problem in language acquisition that is fairly straightforward to explain how the child learns the semantics of language if the child already knew the syntax. But first, let us discuss what is semantic bootstrapping theory. What is semantic bootstrapping? Semantic bootstrapping is a linguistic theory of a child language acquisition which refers to the idea that humans are born innately equipped with a mental faculty that forms the basis of language. According to Pinker, he has suggested that children have innate knowledge of the following. The first is syntactic categories, the noun and verb. For example, in the statement, Anna put the puppy in the car. The child has innate knowledge that Anna could be the noun and put could be the verb. The second one is syntactic phrases, the noun phrase and verb phrase. For example, in the statement, the boy planted a flower in the garden. The child could have innate knowledge or can recognize that the boy is a noun phrase and planted a flower in the garden is the verb phrase. The third is syntactic roles. Your child has to know what the subject is and what the object is. The child has to learn the subject that is usually a noun that comes before the verb. But not all nouns are subject, and it agrees with the verb, and the object is usually comes after the verb and doesn't agree with the verb. For example, in the sentence, John washed the place. The child has the innate language that John could be the subject and the place could be the object. The second one is the thematic or semantic roles like agent, patient, and recipient of the action, which specify the role that the referent plays in the action. The first is the agent. It is the initiator of an action. Example, in the sentence, Mary hit James. The agent is Mary because she is the initiator or could initiate to hit James. And the second is the patient was perceived or the topic of discussion. In the example, Mary threw the ball. The patient is the ball because it is the third one is the recipient, the perceiver of an event or action. In the sample, James felt threatened. James is the recipient because he is the perceiver of an event or the action. The third one is innate linking rules that tell the child how to map from one to the other. In the example, Johnny kicked the ball. In a sentence, Johnny could be the subject and the ball could be the object. And the child could map it that Johnny could also be the agent and the ball could also be the patient. Children are able to learn the different words for nouns simply enough they can see or touch them, and are then given a word associated with that person or object. Bootstrapping looks beyond that, how they are able to acquire words beyond nouns, and how they learn to put the various parts of speech together to form a complete sentence. In other words, Pinker felt that children are able to use the words that they already know and understand to figure out the meaning of what the adults around them are saying. And over time, this allows them to identify and use the additional various parts of speech.
The property of the stimulus problem is solved because innate knowledge guides children's analysis from their input. The bootstrapping problem is solved because the innate linking rules allows children to interfere in syntactic categories which are not observable from the situation. Through the thematic roles, which are once syntactic categories are identified, syntactic rules can be learned. How does this work? Thematic roles refer to the role that people and objects play in an action. So in the sentence, the dog beat Alex, the dog is the agent of the action. The the one who bites, and Alec is the patient, the one that got bitten. Because of this, it is relatively easy to identify the thematic roles in a sentence or observing the situation because described. With linking rules, child can then link these thematic roles to the correct syntactic roles. For example, identifying an agent will allow the child to activate the subject role.